Good afternoon, everyone. There are bad news. We don't have a cool front coming. So we're going to have to do
what's that?
we have so far. But
Okay.
yeah, it is hot.
He's got what he's got.
Very hot.
Thanks.
But anyway, let's go ahead and stand for the pledge, if you would.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, a couple of announcements. Let's just go over from a chair letter. We had a pretty good meeting with Zach Covey, 13. He was very great, very informative, and we got a lot of good response from him. And Spectrum next year, next March, we'll probably do another one of the expos in this building like we did last time, and they agreed to come. So we'll keep them, and we'll keep everybody posted. It'll probably be around the middle of March that we'll do this. We'll still work out the details. And there's several other exhibitors that we had last time that said, hey, we'd love to come back. We'll try to do a little bit better job of advertising, promoting it.
Is that on?
We did have probably, I think in the course of a couple of hours, maybe 50 plus people. So for the first time, I guess that's not too bad in that regard. So I think we can probably hopefully double the attendance on that one. Coming up in September, now tonight is more of a briefing and a discussion about communications. It's not a full-fledged exercise, and Brian will bring in some more information on that. Toward the end of our presentation, Lou is just going to talk a little bit about ham radios and some of the issues that we face in that regard, okay? And then I'm going to just go over 6 points here. You want to do yours first? And then
You, then Lou.
okay, so you want me to go ahead and do this one?
No, me first. Okay.
Okay, what we got coming up in September are block captain trainings, and then also stroke and shock treatment. And in October, breathing emergencies, flu, and COVID prevention. So I did get a hold of Dr. Bayo's office. Carrie Riley, who's a physician assistant, has agreed to come for that meeting, and just from her perspective, and she's geriatrics trained and so forth. So some of you are familiar with her, but they're right down the road. They said to be glad to participate in that regard. Also coming up, the Realtors Association of Lake and Sumter County is sponsoring a hurricane preparedness workshop on August the 5th, which is this coming Saturday, from 9:30 to noon at the Claremont Arts and Recreation Center. We've got, they have Tom Searles, who's Channel
6.
Channel 6 will be there, as well as Nathan Gidding, which some of you are familiar with because he has come here and briefed us on that one. As of this afternoon, they've got 21 registered people to come, and hopefully they'll get more. I mean, 21, for a county this size, I don't know, but we've got 3 or 4 people from our community that are going. So if you're interested, you can text me or just Google.
I couldn't find it with a Google.
You could?
I couldn't find any way to register with a Google.
Okay.
I had to follow your Facebook link.
Okay, I do have that on Facebook on both of our blogs, Town Crier and the Legacy blog, so it's on there also if you want to go in and search it and find it. But they're just asking people as a courtesy. It doesn't cost anything. It's just they would like to know how many people are going to come and so forth. So, all right.
Okay.
One other thing was Brian's coming up. I've passed out a list of different topics. These are things that we're going to be putting together the 24 calendar year. Those are their suggestions. There may be some other things you may have an interest. If you'll just write down on that, hey, I'd like to be able to hear something from such and such organization, jot it down and we'll inquire about it. But we want to try in the next 30 to 45 days to complete the 24 scheduling that we have, okay?
people are radio people? Good. Well, that's 2. That doesn't cover the community too well. And also I want to, Larry, do you have some more of these? It's
I
the
do.
hurricane checklist.
I can go back later and get them at the house.
Yeah, but they can get in touch. If you didn't get one of these, it's pretty comprehensive, really steps you through everything. I think it's one of the better guides that I've seen for hurricane preparedness.
Just a question, there's people at home who have radios, see, just to let them know what your kids are watching.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Carl. Okay, so for those of you at home who may be watching on channel 17, please grab your radio and you can play along, even though you're not here. And we may not be able to hear you from where you are, but we can play along. So I just wanted to bring the checklist back up. Please get with Larry if you would like a copy or even more than one copy. I think you got a pretty good stack.
I've got probably 100.
Yeah, so get with Larry on that. How many people printed up? Yes, Christine, can you?
Who's the author of the checklist?
It's TV 13. It's Spectrum News,
Okay.
TV 13. And Zach brought these in when he was here last month.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, so how many actually printed up the forms? The communication forms? Okay. If you could please come get a couple of these, you're going to need it, Nancy. A couple of these. Did people bring something to write with? Hopefully everybody nods their head in this direction. Thank you very much. Anybody else need forms? Okay, Carl, can you grab these? And then Lou, you have a different form that Larry put together.
Right.
How many people maybe have their address to lot number conversion charts with them? In other words, their operations manual. Okay, only a couple people. That's
Got
good.
another one.
So what we're going to do is we're just going to take a couple minutes. I've got a couple of those scenarios from the drill. And I'm going to have you write down on your form what you want transmitted on the radio. And then I'm just going to have you hold on to the form for right now. And then in a few minutes, we will start transmitting those. And the radio people, you'll have an opportunity to go using the guide that Larry's going to be talking about with his presentation on how to communicate. So here's scenario number 1. Are you guys all ready? Pen in hand, form in hand, ready to go? Okay. This is going to be, since most of you do not have the address to lot number conversion, we're just going to say your section number 1. So everybody up in the section number, go ahead and write number 1. And then your lot number is going to be 125. You can fill in date and time. So, block captain walks up to the house, doing the door-to-door, and notices that there's heavy damage to the house. Smoke is coming from the home. Neighbor is yelling that there is someone laying on the ground in the backyard and thinks there is also someone else that lives there. That's the condition of the house. There is gas odor detected. There are exposed wires, and there is a whole house generator. Now the medical issues, everybody ready? Yells, don't, I'm not ready yet if you're not. Medical issues are a person laying face down in the backyard, does not appear to be breathing, and is very pale in color. Doors and windows to house are locked. No response to banging on door. When you're ready, finished writing that down, let me know.
You didn't say if it was male or female, you said person?
Undetermined.
Especially today.
Everybody ready for scenario number 2? And that'll be the last one. We're only going to do 2. Everybody ready for next scenario? This should go on a separate form because the form you just filled out is going to be given to a runner to run it to the stationary radio location. So next form, it's going to be the same section number 1, lot number 125. Condition of the house, power out in this area on River's Edge. Main electrical panel blown out and bare wires are emitting sparks. There's no odor of gas detected. There are exposed wires. And yes, there is a whole house generator running. So here's the medical issue. Husband on floor and unresponsive, possibly from electrical shock. He is 65. Wife is okay, but suffering from the sight of her unresponsive and unconscious husband laying on the floor. She is known to have heart issues and she is 60. And then once you fill that out, please hold on to those 2 forms. Larry's going to talk about how to communicate. This would be for, it's a little education for, and we've all kind of heard it, I'm pretty sure, but it's always good to review. I wish we had more folks here, but a lot of people are trying to find somewhere a little cooler than Florida. Good luck.
Can you advance the slides on this?
Sure.
How do I do that?
How many in here have been in the military? Just raise your hands. Okay. There's a lot of importance, especially with communications, and clarity and brevity. Okay, it's very important. Because when making a transmission to another person at another location is very important. And this is basically going to go through that process. So why is the call important? Now again, what we're doing is not so much a social call. Hey, how you doing? It's not too bad. It's raining over here. What's going on over there? That's not the kind of communications we want. We want to keep it, if it's not relevant to a situation in our community, stay off the radio. Okay? Next slide. Okay, a lot of cases, what happens on the radio, you have a transmit button. And a lot of people will maybe either start talking before they hit the transmit button. I would wait about a second. Listen to the radio. Usually you'll get a squelch sign of some sort. Okay. At that point, talk. And the importance of the other side is be able to listen to what you're trying to convey. So being able to keep it, and it's not a race. I'd rather see you take an extra 10 seconds to get it right instead of having to spend 3 or 4 minutes repeating back and forth. I didn't understand that. Now, if there's a issue in terms of static, that could happen, other issues in communications. But in this case, it's this is Honeymoon Avenue, I have a situation over, all right? That tells the person in the EOC that something's coming up. He will acknowledge it. Honeymoon Avenue, go ahead, over. Usually what happens with an over, somebody else is expecting something to call back. All right, the reason for it, and we've had other exercises where people walk over each other. Now, granted, I know when we try to do around the pool, we have 7 scenarios going at the same time. The last time I had recorded, sometimes people would try to break in. I've got information here on, the adrenaline's up and so forth, but listen to what's going on the radio and think in terms of the EOC of trying to get the transmission correct. Because at that point, that person's going to turn around and request emergency services if it's needed. All right, next slide. Use proper languages used by professionals. This is not a chit-chat line. All right, this is not TikTok. I don't know what TikTok is. I've heard of it, but I don't have it. I'm afraid the Chinese will probably be listening on it. But the key is clear information. There you go. Use the proper language. Again, there's certain things like if someone says this is Honeymoon Avenue trying to get a hold of EOC over, that means somebody else is going to come back, hopefully the EOC. So it's not the point to turn around and have another person from another location in the community to start transmitting, because then it can get very convoluted and very difficult to deal with it. So the key thing is clear, essential information, because again, it could help save a life or get emergency services. Okay, next slide.
And when you say EOC, you actually mean command center?
Command center, sorry about that. Emergency Operations Center usually is referred to the Lake County, but again, command center is our location, and that's what we're going to hopefully get to the information so eventually can get to the emergency services we need.
So the slide would be command center for this,
Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay, next slide.
Okay.
Okay, what to report. There's an example of the form that Brian has distributed. Take the information down, write it down. You're not a waitress in a restaurant sitting there that can memorize all this stuff with 6 people. I don't know how they do that. Some people can do that. But the thing is to be able to collect the information, to turn around and give it to someone else, okay? No phone numbers, lot numbers is what we need, because it does cut down on the transmission. So like in my case on Honeymoon, my lot number is 21. So the conversion tables, we have it in your operations manual. Please try to utilize that, okay? And the last slide. Speak slowly and give the operations center time to confirm. So if it's going into the operations center that we set up, whether it's in here or somewhere else, be sure it's concise information that we can, again, transfer. So a lot of what you're seeing in these 6 slides is repetitive, but it's very important. I think the bottom line is to collect the information accurately. Go ahead and make a transmission to get information to that location, which is the command center. Wait for acknowledgement. Send that over the radio waves, and then wait for someone in the command center to acknowledge what they have received is correct. And at that point, get off the radio, because there's a good chance somebody else may need to get in, okay? Any questions? Hopefully that was pretty clear.
Any questions? Pretty straightforward.
Okay?
Okay. Let's do this. Okay. So, you have your forms filled out. We only have 2 radio operators. We've got Carl and we've got Michael. Robert. Thank you. So, I'll tell you what, raise your hand if you got a form. You got a form? Take your forms to Carl. You got a form? Yep. Take your forms to Robert. You got a form? Carl. You got a form? Any forms here? Let's go to Robert. And they're gonna communicate to Larry. Larry's gonna be in the kitchen area. Okay, so for block captains, knowing, yeah. Why don't you go ahead and give yours to Carl?
He has a radio too.
But he's not a radio person, right?
Oh,
Dean?
gotcha.
Right, so this is, we're trying to get the radio people. Sorry. Okay. So Carl, do your thing. And Robert, you might want to alternate back and forth. Okay, so let Carl go, then you'll go. We'll just work through it.
Base to command section 1.
Is he on 20? Are you on 20?
Yeah, he's on 20.
Well, we're not hearing him, so I don't think he is.
This is Command Center, go ahead, over.
Yes, be advised, I have a male senior CPR AED needed, unresponsive at this location, 125 lot.
This is the Command Center, understand CPR, person unresponsive, lot number 125, over. That's correct, over now. Command Center, Section 1. Section 1, this is the Command Center, over. Command Center, lot 125. I need EMS and a fire truck. I need EMS, CPR needed, and AED.
And the person's
Responsive. This is Command Center. Say again. Came in broken. Over. I need a EMS, CPR, AED needed. The person is unresponsive. No one answering. Door and gas orders. It's over. And CPR process requires fire truck response. Over.
Roger.
Please notify utility company, electric company, that we have a whole gas generator running. This is Command Center, understand, need location, lot number, over. Lot number is 125. This is Command Center, understand, lot number 125, gas generator is currently operation. Any other issues, over? There's also gas order too. This is Command Center. Over and out.
All right, we're going to take a break right there. Sorry. All right, You saw how long and painful that conversation was, right? In the meantime, we've got a whole community trying to communicate, and they can't until Robert is done. So it needs to be concise. Whoever wrote that one up, way too much information. The radio person should not have to make the decisions on what to transmit. He's really only going to transmit pretty much exactly everything that you put on that piece of paper. So please, block captains, make it concise on your forms. Only circle what needs to be done. Don't write a whole dialogue, you know. We don't want, I don't know. We just can't really have that much verbiage and move the process through and not lose it during the communication process. Robert, for you, I don't know if you're holding the button for transmit fully, because I heard you keep falling out. So what Larry is hearing back there is A-E-O and D-Ch-A. So
Hang on.
it's just something, I mean, none of us, these little radios are not the most friendly. I got to be honest with you. That button is a pain in the butt because it's small, because it seems to be kind of sensitive. If you let off that button even a little bit, the communication isn't happening. So block captains, keep it short on your forms. Only circle if you can. If you've got to write something, should be only a couple words. There shouldn't be a whole dialogue about everything that you are seeing. You know, the trees are green, the grass is dying, they need to weed their front flower bed, right? We don't need to know that. Okay, Larry, let's continue on.
Okay,
Go. Go away.
go away. All right.
Yeah, hopefully. Larry, you ready?
Command Center, go ahead. Section 1 to command. This is Command Center, over.
Yes, be advised, we have need of EMS and fire. We have 2 patients, male, female, both senior, unresponsive male. We have an electrical hazard and the house is damaged. Over.
This is Command Center, understand that patients, male and female, electrical issues, need the response from fire department, lot 125, correct, over?
That's correct. We have 1 unresponsive. Over.
Command Center, out.
Okay, Robert, you're up. You can do it all night long.
Command Center, Section 1. Section 1 is Command Center, over.
Command Center, lot 125. I need an EMS, fire, and police. I have a male, senior 65, unresponsive.
Over. I understand lot 125, request EMS, fire, and police. Male, senior, unresponsive, over.
Correct.
Command Center, out.
Command Center, Section 1.
Section 1, this is Command Center, over.
Yes, we're at lot 125. We probably need EMS and fire. We have an unresponsive, don't know if it's male or female, gas hazard, and the house is on fire.
pretty serious.
This is Command Center, understand, requesting EMS and fire, house is on fire, victim unresponsive, over.
That's correct, over.
Command Center out.
Okay, Robert, you're up. You can do it. So you're saying legibility counts, huh?
Yeah, well,
Write pretty, everybody. Write pretty.
no, it's written, but. Command Center, Section 1, Lot 125.
You broke up.
This is Command Center, Section 1, Lot 125, over.
Please send EMS, fire, CPR, AED needed. A senior 65, male senior 65, has electrical shock and needs a CPR and AED needed.
This is Command Center, understand, EMS and fire needed, male 65, requesting CPR and AED, electrical shock, over.
Correct.
Command Center out.
Same one.
Go for it. Drive Larry crazy.
Command Center, Section 1.
This is Command Center, transmission broken, say again, over.
Yes, Command Center, Section 1.
Section 1, loud and clear, over.
Yes, Lot 125, we need EMS and fire, male 65 senior, unresponsive, possible electrical shock, exposed wires, generator running in the back of the house.
Over. Section 1, this is Command Center, understand EMS fire needed, senior 65, possible electrical shock, also generator is running, over.
Yes, one addition to that, we have also a female unresponsive. She checked for her husband and her status. She's also unresponsive at this time.
Command Center, understand the affected victim, female unresponsive, will contact DOC.
Received, over now.
You got another one, Robert? Thankfully, right? You done, Carl? Okay.
Good job.
Hey, come on out, Larry. That's it. Lou, you wanna go ahead?
Yes.
Okay, please. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
I've been sitting there with bated breath. Not really, not really. But, okay, so let me tell you first of all, I'm the guy that's going to contact the EOC on the ham radio frequencies, okay, on an emergency frequency, whichever one they assign to us for that day. We do exercises constantly, unbeknownst to all of you. Last night and tomorrow night and Friday night, there's a dress rehearsal for this kind of thing. And last night, I was in charge of the net. It's a net of ham radio operators in 11 counties, 11 nearby counties. And we all check into the net and to see if our radios are working and they sound good and proper procedures are followed and so on. We try not to kibitz too much on the air. Okay. been a radio operator for a lot of years. I started out in the Army in 1959 when they didn't use voice for much of anything. They used voice on the battlefield, of course. They had the guys with the radios on their backs and the whip antenna sticking up. But the guys in the trucks with the Radio Shack on the back of a truck, we had radio teletype communications and Morse code. That was it. So what's going to happen here, I used to teach Morse code. That was my job in the Army, part of it anyway. And so what's going to happen here, everyone that has a radio is going to have to learn Morse code in the next 3 weeks. Is that a problem? Just kidding. Trying to lighten things up a little bit.
Yeah, good job.
I'm shooting from the hip. I do not have a lesson plan. I didn't know what I was going to say or when, so I'm just faking it tonight in terms of that. I would like to, I was asked to explain the importance of ham radio in this whole scenario, in this whole situation. And I think we can do that pretty quick. Carl, would you please come up and explain what happened some months back when we had a hurricane down south?
Yes.
And then just cut it off short of,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, this happened during one of the hurricanes. It happened to be my wife's sister and her husband. This is down in Fort Myers. Hurricane came along. They happened to be on the street where the street was actually the lowest part of the street and a drain was there right in front of their house. But their property is actually high. They were the highest house on the street. So what happened when the tide came in, the surge, it came in and actually backed up through that drain and filled up the street, so they could not get out. They were stuck in their house. So they started to worry a little bit because they saw it getting higher and higher. The houses next door started to get flooded, so they called the 911. 911 said, we'll look into it. There's a lot going on. You could understand that at the time. In the meantime, the water's getting higher and higher, and they're getting worried, so they called me. I got a hold of Gary Dominice, and Gary right away got on the horn with this gentleman. And make long story short, at this point, the water got up to their garage. They had kayaks, they have dogs, they had life jackets on the dogs, and they were going to scoot out and get it away from the house because they were afraid boats, they were floating down and actually winding up in other people's yards. So what they were going to do was scoot out until they heard from. On with the story.
Very good. That pretty much tells it. Except I believe they were warned to or asked to leave, right? To evacuate?
No.
Oh, they were not.
They were not asked.
Too late, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're at a slight disadvantage here because Gary's no longer living here. He moved to, his wife passed on and he moved to Oregon. And, or Oregon, however you pronounce that. And Gary was the gentleman, in this case, that would take information from, would be Larry's job. You took Gary's job, right? That's what you do now. And you'll be contacting me. I can't give them too much information. I have a form. We'll go into that in a minute, my observations and what I know what goes on. What happened with this situation, Carl called Gary. Gary's also a ham operator. We're both qualified and set up to talk to EOC. We're in contact with them. That particular day, EOC, this whole county was on alert. We were all standing by our radios. We were all ready in case it came here to get us. And Gary called me on the radio. We have the private frequency that we use for this club, and I forgot what number, 21 maybe? 20?
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Yes.
Channel 20 on those little radios. And said, we've got a situation, and he explained it to me quickly, and we got the address and the names from Carl. I got the information, I called the OC, And I said, we have a situation, I don't know, it's not local. I don't know if we can help these people, but maybe you guys know something I don't know. And they always do. That's why they're there and I'm here. They said, we have a 180-foot tower and we have an antenna on top. We can reach Fort Myers, no problem. We have 1,500 watts. I have 50 watts. So that may tell you what the disparity there is. But they said, we'll give it a shot. And they got on the horn and they were able to contact the EOC in Fort Myers. And these people were rescued, I heard later. So we have to thank Carl, and we have to thank Gary, and we have to thank the EOC for helping us out here. We probably saved some lives, we don't know, but we sure helped, that's for sure. So that's what can happen with ham radio. And if you ask anybody that's been in Puerto Rico, when they had those hurricanes down there that went through there and just devastated the whole island, the only thing left was ham radio. That was it, okay? Now, me personally, I have backup. I don't have a generator, but we have a golf cart. Well, okay, let me explain real quick. All of the radio equipment that hams use run on 12 volts DC, okay? Actually, it's 13.8, but we can drop down to 11 without a problem. We run it off car batteries, because usually car batteries are more than 12 volts. If you ever put a meter on them, they're 12 and a half, 12.8, 13 sometimes. Anyway, I have 4 deep cycle batteries, 12 volt deep cycle batteries in my golf cart that will last me for weeks on ham radio equipment, especially on standby, okay, when you're just listening. That's a good point, listening. What everyone has said here tonight is to listen before you push that button. If you hear talking, well, listen, last night I ran the net, I had 27 stations check in. I had twice people jumping on top of somebody, both keying the mic at the same time because they just couldn't wait. Okay, and so you hear, this is K-Cup, and then the other guy, and you hear the end of the other guy's call sign. So they null and void each other, we have to start over. Okay, and now that wasn't an emergency situation, but it could be. Anyway, that happens even to ham operators. They get anxious and excited. If you hear, if there's somebody on the frequency, don't push the button. Wait, just wait to get in there. Okay, let us pray that we don't have a major storm of some sort of, God forbid, a tornado, because that's like devastation. Okay, but what we get here, the reason we moved here 21 years ago to retire was because my wife checked it out even then online and found out there has not been a hurricane in the Leesburg area since 1900. And you could say, no, we had one last year. No, we didn't. Oh, we had one in 2005. No, we didn't. Those weren't hurricanes, not here. Okay? I grew up in Miami. We had hurricanes every day in the summer. It seemed like it. But when you're a kid, you don't, that's fun. You know, it's like fun. Okay, my parents didn't think it was fun. We lost part of our roof once. Those were, down there you get hurricanes. That's where they come ashore. That's where they come in and do all the damage. We get the tail ends, we get the outer bands, we get high winds. We lived in Royal Highlands in 2004 and 5. Down the street, 5 miles. And Charlie came through here. Charlie was, there was a lot left over from Charlie. I had a little dome fan on top of my roof, and the cover on this thing, it's aluminum. It's the only damage I had. It was gone. I think it went to dome heaven, I guess. I don't know. But that's the only thing we had, damage. And that was some heavy stuff then. We had 90-mile-an-hour horizontal winds. The homes are built for it. Yeah, you can get some trash or something, break through your window and mess things up pretty good. But we're fortunate here. First thing that goes is the power. We all know that. I think we do. Once you have no power, things get interesting, especially after about 6 or 8 hours in the daytime.
Yeah, summer, and add summer temperatures to it and humidity. And
This time of year is the worst time. I mean, well, it was what, 5 or 6 years ago we had the one that came in September? I forgot the name, I forget names. And
Irma.
The whole community was out for about 3 seconds, I believe. But then when it came back on, there were several hundred homes that didn't have any. And they belonged to Duke Energy. this community is split between Duke and Seco. Most everyone knows that. Seco didn't have a problem. I think they were out for 15 minutes or some nonsense, and it was back on. But it's not just in one part of the community. People in the back where I live now, they had power. Over here, off Aurora, we had no power. There were 360 homes that had no power. Duke Energy, when contacted, said, no, all your power's on. Our computer says they're all lit up. I said, well, anyway, long story short, that was 8 days of that. 8 days, okay? And it was brutal. Anyway, the only reason it was out, there was a switch open on top of one of the poles. All he had to do, he took his pole, zigzagged it up the pole, pulled the switch down, and the whole neighborhood lit up for 8 days. And their computers, anyway, that's a whole nother story. We'll do our best. That's all we can do, right? Radio procedure, it doesn't come natural. A lot of people are afraid to talk on there. We'll see what happens. Are there any questions? Anybody have a question they want to throw out? Guess not. Oh, there's one.
Well, I don't know for you to answer this question. Okay.
Okay, we have designated people to be in charge of the command center and so forth. Okay, what if that person is not available and we have an emergency? Who's the backup?
Um,
Oh, thank you.
You want to answer that one?
Yeah. I have a medical representative in the command center. The Kellys will be with us in the command center. I will be in the command center. It doesn't hurt to have a couple of other people at that point to help out. But one advantage, again, when Gary left, we bought some of his equipment. We've got one, I guess what you call a mobile unit, 15 watt, I think, something like that. You have one already, and they work pretty well. I think we did a test last year, and you were over here, and we had people running all over the community, and it was pretty well out and clear. We also have a 40 watt unit, which I have at the house, and that will be set up. Right now, we have plenty of coax cable and a platform outside that an antenna can be placed on that. It won't be very tall, but it may be up to maybe 7 or 8 feet at that point outside the community here. Most likely we'll set up in the kitchen area. So hopefully we'll have that. Again, it wouldn't hurt to have a couple more volunteers that'd be willing to come in. I would say if we can get at least 2 more people, at least we have the backup in case I can't get there or somebody else can't get there. But let's remind it, we're not going to deploy our resources during the storm. We respond after. I think it's 30 minutes after.
Winds below 30 miles an hour, less than 3/4 of an inch of rain per hour, and it's daytime.
Right. And now last year when we had the remnants of the 2 storms or hurricanes, Brian came up with a very creative method using texting for the different sections. And based on what I've heard, that thing worked like a charm. We had the whole community surveyed in less than 15 minutes probably.
Yeah.
And got response back. Now there's no guarantee that, texting or the internet will be there, but it's pretty resilient with the satellite systems and so forth, as long as you've got some type of power, whether it's a portable unit or whatever. I did test. We got a lithium battery, which pulls, I can't remember the nomenclature on it, but it's a 13.5.
13.8.
13.8. And I actually had set up the radio with that one battery and just kept it on for 4 or 5 days. I lost less than, I think after I measured the remaining power, it was like 12.5 volts after 5 or 6 days without any transmission. So the deep cycle batteries, as he mentions, will run a long time because a lot of these radios are only pulling, what, 3 or 4 watts? Amperage,
No.
Way less than that.
8 amps.
8 amps for
amps?
you, but on the portable ones, I think
Oh,
it's
on
a lot
the little
less.
ones, yes.
Yeah, it's less than 3. So the Midlands that we have are very good radios, and they can transmit. So once we have the radio personnel on hand, and the EOC, or not the EOC, the command center is set up, I think we'll be in pretty good shape, and we'll be able to test that again. Again, Carl was one of the ones that helped out on that last year, and we'll probably do it again, just to set up the radios and test them out. We also have 2 portable Midland radios, by the way, with all that information. So the Midlands, I do think, are a little bit more powerful and more quality of a radio. So we'll at least have 2 of those. If we don't, other than the stationary people that go out on the radio, we'll also have the 2 portable Midland units that we can also deploy. Okay? Does that answer your question?
The short answer is hopefully we'll have redundancy of people. That could be a tall order. But we could be overran with a bunch of people coming out of the woodwork saying, how can I help? So we'll do the best we can with what we've got at that point.
May I add something?
Sure.
You know, we're just one small community here of 1,000 homes. In fact, it is 1,000 now. No, it's 998.
999.
No, it's 998. There's still one empty lot, right?
Something like that.
They're building number 998 at the end of our block. So that one's going to be done soon. But anyway, we're just a small community, really. Royal Highlands has 1,500. Okay? The one up from them, I forgot the name, they have 3,500. Then there's Spanish Village, I don't even know how many are in there. There's across the street Arlington Ridge, and we go on and on with this. There's thousands. And that's just within a couple of 5 miles, okay? 5-mile radius. There's God knows how many homes. I don't even know. I've never really figured it out. But anyway, the point is,
Uh-oh, we lost your mic. Larry, can you give him that mic? Thanks.
the point is, there's so many people and so many homes and only so many ambulances and so many fire trucks and so many rescue trucks and so on and so on. So if it's a real widespread disaster, it's not going to be easy to get help. We'll do what we can. They may not be able to respond, you know, just don't know. We have to make do whatever we have to do.
We're the help before help can arrive. That's all we can be.
That's exactly right.
We
Yeah,
try to
that's all
help
we
the
can do.
best we can, whichever way we
Right.
can. But it's out of our hands at some point.
Okay?
And one other point, I think we're kind of unique in Lake County. There's not a lot of communities that are doing what we are doing. I know that the Lake County Office of Emergency Management is working with a community, I can't remember the name, over in Claremont, but there's going to be one of the test cases they have, and they're also trying to set up CERT training in the future. So, again, at least we're attempting to try something. I mean, if it's worst case, and we have 5 or 6 in the EOS, in our command center, we can dispatch a car, and I can get to Lou's house in 3 minutes. So, I mean, if for some reason, we'll find a way to get information to the people that need it and try to help out our community. So I think from that standpoint, you guys being here and the type of structure that we have with neighbor to neighbor, it's a very good thing that we're doing. And it may not be perfect, but we're not perfect people anyway. So the fact that we're attempting to do something, I think is a good.
I'd just like to comment on the group. I'd just like to comment on the group of leaders here. This was exactly, I felt this is exactly what I needed to see and hear to make it more real and, you know, be more prepared when something happens. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Not a question, but a comment. I was part of the original threesome that started this community club. And I will say that we have grown way beyond, we were just grateful that we could bring ice up here to people like Lou, who didn't have it. But had we known that Lou and those people didn't have things, we would have brought our generator over. We would have brought them to our house, but we didn't know that. So we've come a long way. And those of you that don't know that need to understand that our leadership now, Larry and Brian, have done amazing things. They go way above and beyond a volunteer. And I think everyone needs to understand that and give them accolades. I mean, just be grateful that we have them in this community.
Just throw money, just throw money.
Checks accepted.
Yeah, appreciate all the money you're giving to me. It really helps out. No, I'm just kidding you. But anyway, if there's no other questions, that'll conclude the meeting tonight, and I appreciate you coming out.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.